Hey, somebody's got to brew a pot of Java before we get going. You have? Excellent. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to The Professional Noticer. Here, you and I will use common sense and all the wisdom we can muster to move beyond what is true and go all the way to the truth. With actual listeners in more than 100 countries, I am The Professional Noticer. Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. My purpose here today, and with every show we do, is to play the part of a best friend or a coach. I want to help you live the life of your wildest dreams by giving you access to some of the greatest mentors and thinkers the world has to offer today. This week, The Professional Noticer is sponsored by Kamado Joe Grills. Have you ever been in the middle of something you just love doing, but you're frustrated by the quality of whatever it is that you're using? I mean, maybe it didn't break, but it just didn't work like it could. And perhaps you already have a ceramic grill, a big one, but you are the only one who can lift the lid to check on dinner. Heck, not even your 13-year-old boy can lift it. Yes, it is the wrong color, and yes, when you look at the back, the hinge does look like something a kid made in a high school shop class. Some years ago, this was pretty much the realization a couple of guys had about grilling. They loved it. They grilled all the time, weekend after weekend. However, they'd be a bit disappointed by their grills, and as it turned out, these guys had the ability that allowed them to design and develop a better grill. And the circumstances were perfect for them to bring that grill to us. The Kamado Joe in all its sizes and with all its specialized tools and its counterbalanced stainless steel hinge. Even with the Big Joe, a 10-year-old can lift the lid to fully open using a single finger. Seriously. Kamado Joe's not just a line of products. Kamado Joe, the world's best ceramic cooker. Check out KamadoJoe.com or anywhere fine grills are sold. All right. Hey, today we have some observations and answers that are going to be a lot of fun. You know, more than anything, I don't have to have famous people. I don't have to have somebody who can sing. I don't have to have somebody who can dance. I just got to have somebody interesting. That's what I want. I want to have guests who are interesting. And today we have hit the jackpot. Ladies and gentlemen, we have it now. You know, to call him a local personality would be really kind of a disjustice, but or even an injustice, a disjustice or an injustice, or there wouldn't be any justice. But I kind of feel like, you know, if somebody is from their hometown, it don't matter where the hometown is, they're not respected. So you don't live here, and so you are going to be blown away by this guy. He lives here, so I don't have to be that impressed. But it's Cliff McCollum. He is the Director of Constituent Services for Baldwin County's legislative delegation. And I want to welcome the esteemed Mr. Cliff McCollum. Cliff, thanks for being here, buddy.
No, Andy, thank you for having me. It's a delight to be here.
Now, you know, we have a great mutual friend in Keith Lyons.
We do.
And before I ever met you, I was hearing stories about you. And I mean, Keith would come in and say, "Oh, he said this. Oh, he said this. And he majored in this in college. Oh, he did." Now, and so I want to find out at least if some of these are true. And you know that what you and I really have in common is a real appreciation for history.
Very much so.
And a sense of humor about it.
You have to laugh at things. You have to find the humor in the everyday world. Otherwise, you're just going to walk around miserable all the time. So you have to find ways to make each and every day just a little bit funny.
Yeah. And so, McCollum, what is your family background? What are you?
Scotch-Irish, in that we are Northern Irish and we really enjoy Scotch.
Okay.
Well, no, McCollum, it means son of Colum. Colum was an ancient Scottish king. Our branch of the family, apparently you can be too drunk and violent for even the Scots. So we got chased over to Northern Ireland.
Right.
And we made our way south, Georgia, and then central Alabama, Lee County. Good old Opelika, Alabama.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
County seat of Lee County, because Auburn gets airs a little bit sometimes. We have to remind them we're the county seat.
Yeah. There you go. And what... To me, I don't really even know what the Director of Constituent Services... I didn't even know that was a job.
To be fair, I really didn't either. I was managing editor of our local newspapers here before I took the job at Gulf Coast Media. And an ad appeared in our paper, in the want ads, and it was for the Director of Constituent Services for the Baldwin County.
And you thought, I can do that?
I'm like, well, it sounds fancy. I like that. So I applied for the job, and I got it. And basically, it's a very fancy way of saying, forgive the quote, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But I actually mean it. And we really have gotten to help a lot of people, especially with this pandemic year. Over 200-something people with unemployment help, getting them direct help from the Department of Labor at the state. With Hurricane Sally and the damage that we've had from that, talking with people at FEMA and our emergency management agency here with the state.
Yeah, it's been
we've really been able to do a lot.
Yeah. So what was your, like, I don't want to say what are your qualifications, but what degree do you have to do? I mean, or do you have a degree? I don't have a degree. And so I'm always curious about other...
Well, I have, and if some of my professors at Auburn are listening to this, please, Dr. Bertolet, Dr. Backscheider, Dr. Weirs, please forgive me. I have probably one of the most useless degrees in all of Christendom, British literature.
Oh, really?
Because when you get just the English degree, like I didn't get the education thing to go with it when I was an undergrad. It's just British literature. I was enamored with it. I've always enjoyed reading. I've just always been a bit of an Anglophile. So you kind of pair the two together, and you can apparently get a degree in it. So if you need Chaucer translated from Middle English, I'm your guy. Like I can get you there. Juan that opera with the shorter sota, but useful stuff, debatable.
Yeah. Have you ever? This is like taking a side road, obviously, but have you ever seen the movie A Knight's Tale?
I have, with Heath Ledger.
Yeah, and I love Chaucer in that.
Absolutely hilarious.
I mean, that movie is hilarious to me.
Well, and the juxtaposition you get kind of with the anachronisms of like the music, like with the Queen added to like the jousting scenes and stuff like that.
Right.
Just absolutely perfect.
And when they start, he's teaching them how to dance, and they go into golden years. Like, that is killer. But Chaucer announcing the jousting is hilarious to me. That's, I know Miss Bergen would roll over in her grave, my English teacher in high school, but, when I hear of Chaucer, I think of that movie now.
Well, and, you never know what's gonna trigger or what's going to, like, stick in your brain with stuff like that. And that's what I've always really enjoyed about learning. And even, I took a class in Jane Austen when I was at Auburn with the august Donald Weirs, who I had 10 classes with the man at Auburn. Like, I absolutely love him. And going through some of the modern adaptations of like Jane Austen, and you don't even realize you're watching Jane Austen, like Clueless is obviously Emma.
Right.
But so many people have no earthly idea. Same thing with Bridget Jones' Diary and Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, but don't grab that connection.
It's so fun how, it's one of those everything old is new again kind of things.
Oh yeah, and I feel like if Oh Brother Where Art Thou, if they hadn't have made the connection to Ulysses, nobody would have. Well, I say nobody would have gotten it. I just think it's so much better that they made that connection, because now you do see that all the way through it. It's just brilliant.
God, and such a great man. Like John Goodman, who is my birthday twin, fellow June 20th birthdayer. Just that best part of the movie, him and the Pappy O'Daniel stuff.
Yeah.
Because, you get the broom out. Harkens back to, even some of our Alabama politics with old Big Jim Folsom with the broom and the sud bucket going around Alabama.
Yeah, we got so many. That movie is so quotable. You know, it is just so quotable. It's my wife's favorite movie. It's the favorite of all time.
I mean, it's definitely a top 10.
Yeah.
It's got to be a top 10.
Okay, I got to ask you something. One of the most interesting things I have heard about you was said just in an offhand conversation. All right. And Keith said one day, he once did a project on unsuccessful presidential assassinations.
I did, and let me give you a little backstory.
Okay,
on this,
okay.
Andy, because you don't know me terribly well, but occasionally I can be very petty.
Okay.
In fact,
I think all of us can, but you're just admitting
the
it.
McCollum family crest might translate out of Latin, if you stay petty, you don't have to get petty. So I'm in a public speaking class at Auburn, which you have to take to get a liberal arts degree at Auburn.
Yep.
And the professor told us at the beginning of the semester for like the final project, you're not allowed to talk about like your sorority or fraternity. It's fine. I am not in a fraternity. I'm not in a sorority. I don't think I was. And but so many people, that's what they did their thing on. And I had to sit there through all of that. And
They just did it anyway?
they did it anyway, and she didn't stop them.
Oh,
Because she was in a sorority herself. And she was like, oh no, it's fine.
yeah.
So my brain,
Yeah, I feel your pain already.
that little hamster starts running up there as best as he can. And it's like, how can you make these people suffer? And so it was, I had been listening. I'm a theater kid. I was a theater kid. I'm a theater nerd. I love musicals, love Broadway. Stephen Sondheim has this wonderful musical called Assassins. And it is some of the successful presidential assassins and some of the not so successful assassins. And they sing songs about killing the presidents because it's Stephen Sondheim and he does weird things like that. So I was listening to that, like walking to class, Unworthy of Your Love, actually, where John Hinckley and Squeaky Fromm are singing. And
Yeah, this sounds really good.
yeah, I don't know. It's actually a very cool musical, but a little dark, but well, Sondheim.
Yeah.
So I was like, I know what I'm going to do. And it was, here are the unsuccessful presidential assassins, these people you might have heard of, or you might have heard that this was like a thing. But yeah, did a whole presentation on it. The professor hated it. And the class, I mean, you could just tell everybody was just in pain having to and I'm just like, I am in my element, just spinning a yarn, telling a tale. Tried to give me a C on it. And luckily, the head of that particular, because it was taught by grad students, the person who was over that thing, dear family friend of ours from Opelika.
I love it when that thing comes together like that.
And when that happens, and your family lives like a block or two from them, so you just walk down to the house and you
hey, Uncle Herbert. Yeah. Oh,
say, Miss Jane, I just don't know about this. And somehow it gets taken care of, these things.
Yeah. Oh, I'm all on your side with that.
So
See, I was in college for a brief time, and I didn't do any of the fraternity, sorority stuff either. So I feel your pain.
Well, with the fraternities and stuff like that, what's that old, I think it's a Groucho Marx quote. I know Woody Allen borrowed it too. I would never want to belong to a group that would have somebody like me as a member.
Right.
So it definitely stems from that.
Who are some of your favorite, or just give me a couple of stories about the failed presidential assassinations?
Well, let's start with really the first one. Richard Lawrence is probably the prime example of just a wonderful blend of like crazy and just very historically on brand as well.
Okay, so I'm not familiar with him.
This guy, he tried to kill Andrew Jackson.
Okay.
Which automatically you got to feel bad for the guy because you can't kill Andrew Jackson. Like, it's just, unless you're whiskey, you're not going to kill Andrew Jackson.
I know. You can look at the guy and tell he ain't going to die.
No, and so, but this dude was legitimately mentally ill. He thought he was King Richard III of England.
All right. The Lionhearted.
Right, and who, died in the 1400s, which, I mean, if he's still around in the 1830s, it's actually kind of impressive. That's some longevity.
Yeah.
So he tries to kill Jackson, has 2 pistols, fails completely. And Instead of just arresting him, it's Andrew Jackson. So, of course, he just beats him to a pulp with a cane.
Andrew Jackson did.
Oh, yeah. Like, Andrew just starts whipping him. And they eventually take him off and all that. But that's really one of the first...
I could see Trump beating somebody with a cane. Anyway, let's don't go there. Go. Come on, back to Andrew Jackson. Go ahead.
But yeah, no, it's just very on brand for Andrew Jackson. Like, if you heard Andrew Jackson beat somebody with a cane, you'd just be like, well, yeah, it's a day that ends in Y. That's just going to be something that happens. Like, Andrew Jackson was one of those presidents that just did not care. Like,
well, somebody tries to kill you, if they don't do it, that would piss you off.
Well, but some of them didn't do that. Like, you think of Teddy Roosevelt. Now, this was after he was president, but when he was running for the Bull Moose Party. This was 1912. And I think it was John Schrank.
Reagan didn't seem very mad. It's like,
no, Reagan made jokes about it.
There he goes again. But tell me the
Schrank thing, and this is actually one of the cool things. Teddy Roosevelt's always kind of been a favorite of mine.
Yeah, me too.
Like, when you look at the American presidency, there are just certain people that stand out above and beyond some of the other ones. And not just because they get their friend Gutzon Borglum to put them on a mountain. Like, Teddy reshaped the American presidency and as to what it could do and what it could be. So this is 1912. Woodrow Wilson's running on the Democrats. You got William Howard Taft running for the Republicans, and Teddy is running for the Progressive Party. On a stop, and he's got this huge speech. He's got a 50-page speech and he's got it folded up in his pocket. So Schrank comes up, shoots him, gets him in the chest, but because of the 50-page speech he has folded over and the glasses case he's got in his pocket, it hits him, wounds him, but Roosevelt realizes, well, I'm not coughing up blood, so I know I'm not going to die. I'm just going to go ahead and finish this speech. Well, you remember, his daughter Alice, I think, very wisely once said, my father has to be the bride at every wedding and the corpse at every funeral. So Teddy is not going to let the little assassin try to stop him from giving his speech.
What's a bullet in the chest?
But he stopped the crowd from doing anything to this guy. They ended up arresting him, and he got carted off to jail. But you don't always have to beat somebody with a cane. Which since Roosevelt was the big stick diplomacy guy, you would think maybe he would have
used that big stick, but no.
But no, Teddy was just like, no, I got a speech to give, man. I ain't got time for this.
Had the bully pulpit. Yeah.
So
that's fascinating.
No, it's one of the more interesting ones. I would definitely say
the Garfield one was almost unsuccessful.
Charles Guiteau. Yeah.
If it hadn't been for the surgeon.
Well, and I think that's wash your hands, and good advice for us now with the pandemic. We're there. Wash your hands. Like, if you're going to be poking around in someone's open wound, maybe wash your hands.
Yeah. I read a biography of Garfield, and it was something like The Assassin and the President. It was the name of it was something like that, or The Crazy Person and the Murder of a President, or something. And it was very curious to me to get to the end of the book and realize he wouldn't have died if it wasn't for the surgeon.
No, he would have been fine. But because of the medical malpractice that was suffered at the hands of like these medical professionals, which at the time, medicine wasn't quite as advanced. Although I do still subscribe to the theory that, whiskey is medicinal.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, I mean, that's science. I learned that from Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, when I was a child, and it's just always stuck with me.
Yeah.
And Dr. Quinn, she's a doctor and she's a medicine woman. That's two.
That's two.
That's double.
Yeah. Dr. Quinn, that's true. That's very good, And every now and then, a couple of leeches, a good bleeding.
Hey, it's good for the soul.
Yeah.
Good for the soul.
Yeah. So give us one more failed, just some kind of odd facts. See, I love these little odd facts known by few.
We could talk about Samuel Bick or Bike. I've never actually heard the name pronounced out loud, but the guy who tried to steal the 747 to kill Nixon.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
It's just such a to get there. I mean, I don't even know how you, and he ends up getting mentioned in the 9/11 Commission report as well. Like, we've known this could be a problem since, back in the 70s when this guy tried to steal this plane and kill Dick Nixon, which on some level, I kind of get the impulse to kill Nixon. I can understand how maybe somebody would get there. Although I feel like sometimes Nixon gets a bum rap because he actually, Watergate stuff aside, he was a fairly decent president.
Yeah.
Great on foreign relations. But this guy tries to steal this plane. But beforehand, he is trying to let people know how awful Nixon is and how they need to do this. And so he sends like recordings to a bunch of famous people, including Leonard Bernstein. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love West Side Story as much, if not more, than the average person.
Maybe Bernstein shared this with Stephen Sondheim, and that was where it all started.
Well, the funny thing is he's in Assassins as one of the assassins. He's dressed in a Santa suit because he did protest Nixon in a Santa suit at some point.
Oh, God.
But as like his scene is ending or whatever, and like he tried to steal the plane, they ended up shooting him in the plane. But Maria from West Side Story is like, if it's staged the way it was staged in like 92, Maria from West Side Story starts playing as like the lights come down on his scene after they've shot him.
Seriously.
So I mean, it's very much like a part of that story though. But and then you got to go with the two ladies that try to kill Gerald Ford too, and like one right after the other.
Anybody named Squeaky.
Well, Squeaky, and then you got Sarah Jane Moore too, who it was less than 2 weeks later. Like, give it a little time to cool off.
Yeah.
But
yeah, do you think they're not going to be on their guard?
I mean, like Squeaky, you got the whole Charlie Manson angle with that just makes it just truly, truly bizarre. And then with Sarah,
Now, where did she come from? What was the deal there?
She was actually like the second member of the Manson family. Her parents had like kicked her out of the house. She was sitting at a bus stop. Charlie Manson finds her and is like, I can tell you're in trouble or something like that. She's like, oh, you're psychic. I'm going to follow you to the ends of the earth and like kill people for you. And she just joined on. Now, she didn't participate in like the Tate murders or anything like that, but she was outside protesting the entire time when all that was going on. And she went to go kill Gerald Ford, and like the gun didn't go off. There was no bullet in the revolver when she tried to shoot. And she said later when she was at trial that she had actually like fired one off at home to make sure that she wouldn't actually kill Gerald Ford. And they did find a casing at her home. But then like why would you go through the trouble of,
Yeah.
So, she goes to jail for a while. She ends up getting out like sometime it was like maybe a year or two after Ford passed away. And same thing with Sarah Jane Moore. She missed twice. Weird obsession with the Hearst family, like weird obsession with Patty Hearst. And I mean, like, I get it, like the green fatigues and like the PLO thing. Like, I can understand that. But she misses the first time, and then, hits somebody, like somebody hits her arm or something the second time. She ends up hitting somebody else. She goes to jail for a while, and then they end up releasing her. There was an act that was passed after Kennedy was killed that, like, if you even attempt to assassinate a president, you're going to jail for the rest of your life.
Right.
But a lot of these would-be assassins have been released. Squeaky, Sarah Jane, John Hinckley even have been, let go.
I saw John Hinckley the other day.
Was he here at the wharf?
No, not really. I didn't really see him. But that's weird thinking he's out.
Well, and weird thinking, knowing now what we know about Jodie Foster.
I bet Jodie Foster's like, yeah.
Like, dude, that's the totally wrong way to go about getting Jodie Foster's attention.
Yeah,
like,
seriously? Oh my God! This is maybe off topic, but did you hear about the woman that got out of prison in Texas like a week ago? She had killed her 34-year-old husband. Now, this really happened. She really did get out of prison. She was sentenced to 20 years, got out in 16. All right. Now, she killed her 34-year-old husband, and the way she killed him is she promised him sex, and he let her tie him to the bed. And so then when she tied him to the bed, she went to the kitchen and got a knife and stabbed him.
So it's like Marquis de Sade meets Lorena Bobbitt, kind of.
But see, so 20 years for that. Now, she said that he abused her, but the jury decided that she did it for the $200,000 life insurance. Okay. She buried his body in the fountain, in the place where they were going to build a fountain in the backyard. All right, there was already a hole there. So she
and Jimmy Hoffa was already down there anyway.
Probably. And so, but it was curious to me that she got out, that she was sentenced to 20 and got out in 16, because there's one part I didn't tell you. Yes, she did tie him to the bed. Yes, she did stab him 193 times.
He ran into that knife.
Yeah, I'm thinking he fell down the stairs.
No, he ran into my knife 193 times.
Yeah.
Like it's a perfectly logical explanation.
Self-defense. But one of the funniest things, and this is not funny, but it's just weird to me, is at her trial, they took the bed and put it in the courtroom to reenact the crime.
Well, these days, people are visual learners.
Yeah.
You know, everybody has a different learning type.
Can't you see somebody over there going, just 172, 173, 174, just keep going.
No, you got to get the little
Yeah.
clicky thing, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. But good grief. But these, you see somebody in prison forever because they did, stole a chocolate milk or something, and then somebody stabs someone 193 times out in 16 years. I don't get it.
It's a weird thing that it varies so much, and that's why you sometimes just have to find the humor and the absurdity of it all. There's a Mark Twain quote that I absolutely love and stuff, and it's the secret root of humor is sorrow. And I have taken that to mean, like, you have to find some way to, because otherwise you're just going to be sad all the time. You've got to find a way to find joy in life.
Yeah.
You got to find a way to even take the horrible and
Even
macabre.
take the horrible.
And I know this because, and I'm going to use our friend Keith as an example. Keith's grandfather passed away recently, and we were at the funeral, and I am horrible at funerals. If I am your friend and I am at a funeral for you, just know that I am going to be horribly inappropriate because funerals make me really sad, and I have to find a way to buoy that.
Right. I want to go to a funeral with you already. Go ahead.
So I'm there, and we're trying to mourn Keith's granddad, who was a great guy, and it's this little family cemetery in the middle of nowhere. I'm not sure if we were in Alabama or Mississippi, because over there near Buckatuna, it just go Buckatuna. I don't even know how to pronounce it. It goes back and forth. Like, I had to stop to ask for directions because the GPS was like, I don't know. And like, you stop at the gas station, like, well, you gonna turn left and then lefter, and then where old Harold used to live, where that red door's at, that red door house, you just turn there. And I don't know what Harold was doing, but I found the red door. But that house in the middle of nowhere, Alabama, Mississippi, Harold must have been doing something good with his life, because that was a nice house. So we find it, we're there in a little family cemetery, and it's probably one of Keith's relatives, so he's going to get mad at me for saying this, but on the stone or whatever, it said, not gone, just sleeping. And growing up Southern Baptist and a good Christian boy, we all know what that means.
Yeah.
But in my head, the absurd literalist English major that I am, I'm like, I am not falling asleep anywhere in this town. They will put you in the ground.
Put you in the ground, baby. Oh my God.
And so I'm just like, and I'm talking to Keith's bonus daughter, and like, just trying to cheer her up, and I'm just like, don't go there. The hands will pop up out the grave, and like
she's just like,
well, and then there was another guy who was buried near Keith's grandfather, and I think actually this is a point of honor. Keith's granddad is buried near Michael Jackson.
Wow.
I don't know if it was the actual king of pop, like they just threw it off.
That doesn't matter. His name's on the...
But Keith's granddad is buried near Michael Jackson, and I think that's a very cool fact.
I think that's an awesome thing. I think he should tell everybody.
I would.
Yeah. funerals that's one of those kind of things. I love going to cemeteries and seeing stuff and thinking that, but I've been a pallbearer one time, and it was for, now I got to be careful how I tell this, so I'm going to get in trouble for telling this.
I know that feeling well.
But it was for a woman who, she weighed 600 pounds. Okay. I mean, I'm just telling you, if I weighed 200, she weighed 600. Okay. And so I was a pallbearer, and I was the youngest one. All right. So there's 6 of us. And when we, reached down to pick the casket up, it was a larger one. Mm-hmm. And when we reached down to pick it up, we kind of all went, huh. And then we kind of regripped, and we did. Now, we got to go down the front steps of this church, right? And I'm in front. And these guys are old behind me. But I got to I had to stop myself from laughing, because I was thinking as I was walking down the aisle, like this, I got to thinking, why was I surprised this was so heavy? Why was I surprised? And I realized why I was surprised. And it's that Southern Baptist thing, because, when I was growing up, you'd go to a funeral and Mom and Dad would say, "That's not Uncle Arnold. That's just his shell. His shell. Uncle Arnold's in heaven. That's just his shell." And I think, like a shrimp shell, it don't weigh anything. No. And so, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, we're just going to, just because she's in heaven, this is just her shell. I went, what the? And so it was very funny for me. I got to thinking about it. It's just her shell. Well, her shell was very, very.
No, well, I mean, some shells are bigger. You got shrimp shells, and then you got like pecan shells and walnut shells.
Yeah,
they're a little bit heavier.
But that's what they say. It's just your shell. It's just your shell. So, hey, I got one more thing that right. I want to have you back. You're just fun to talk to, and so, but I do know that we share a common historical personality that we're both kind of obsessive about, and that's Winston Churchill.
Oh, just 100%. If you ask me who my favorite historical figure was, the whole who would you go to dinner with if you could, it would straight up be Winston Churchill. I mean, A, because it would be a fascinating conversation, but B, it would be a heck of a dinner too.
Oh yeah.
He didn't do anything halfway.
Right. Did I make you jealous when you saw it?
Oh, I did, like seeing the exhibit out there. Although we have the same books. I have those books.
Right.
But I did seeing the little exhibit out there with the decanters and everything.
Yeah, that's his whiskey decanters.
I am insanely jealous, I will say.
That cognac that is there and that is in that one, when he was meeting with FDR and Stalin, and then later it was Stalin and Truman, when they would meet in Potsdam, Germany, Stalin would always bring him a case of cognac. And Churchill loved it. I mean, he just thought that was the best cognac ever. And so when the Iron Curtain fell, Stalin cut him off. But for the rest of his life, Churchill was able to have that smuggled in and drink that for the rest of his life. So I told a friend of mine around here, is an older gentleman, I told him that story, and he has big businesses, and they have people from all over the world working. And about a year later, he comes to me with that bottle, and he says, "They're still making it." And I said, "Is this that?" He said, "Yeah, it's a newer bottle of it." But he said, "I had it brought in from the Ukraine." And he said, "They're still making it, and this is what he had." And I said, "Well, it was Gene Brett is who gave it to me." And I said, "Well, Gene, I noticed this is half a bottle." He said, "Yeah, it's very good. It's very good." But I've got that. That's the bottle.
No, and I mean, I'm not even mad. I would have, if I were him, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, isn't that amazing though? What is your favorite? Maybe what's your favorite story about Churchill that you think most people just don't know?
A lot of people go with the whole like born in a cloakroom thing because that was so apocryphal. But if you read William Manchester, which the Manchester Last Lion series, that is the definitive, I would say, Churchill biography not written by Churchill. And the best thing about Winston Churchill is so much of what we know about him, he wrote himself. He was such a prolific writer.
Right.
But I got to go with the meeting at the White House. Where Churchill was a great lover of baths. Started every day.
Oh yeah.
And had
FDR had to go in with him naked.
Oh yeah, and had the portable bathtub that he would take with him when he had to go to the war, to the battlefield. He had the portable bathtub, which I want one desperately because as a Churchill fan, I have become a bath fan, and so you start every day, you end every day, and he's taking the bath, and FDR needs to talk to him, and so he just stands up, and it's Churchill. He was not a shy guy, just completely naked, and FDR, that good old puritanical sense of shame is like, oh no, let me hide my eyes, Mr. President, the people of Great Britain have nothing to hide from our friends, the United States. Which by Churchill is absolutely terrible. But it's stuff like that it's just like any other world leader did that, and you'd be like, they are clinically insane. But Churchill does, and you're like, no, that's
that's
right.
pretty much
that
him.
fits.
Yeah, pretty much him. I just thought he was just fascinating. And, George Washington Carver is a big hero of mine. And one thing that Carver and Churchill had in common is both painted. Carver painted with colors he would make from soils and clays, and I've tried for years to find something that he painted to see if I could get it, but I have not been able to do it. And so when I found out that Churchill was such a prolific
there's a ton of them out
painter.
there. Yeah.
That he won, he entered one competition that was, just under an assumed name, and he won, right? And so he was very accomplished, but there's a ton of them out there. And so I thought, oh man, okay, well, maybe I can find one of those. Oh no!
Oh no, I've tried.
Yeah,
I as soon as you said that, I knew what they're going
in the seven figures. Yeah,
and if I ever hit the lottery, which I go over to Pensacola every week, I take bacon over there for Billy Stitt. I deliver for him because it's a fun job. And if I ever hit the lotto one week in the Powerball, I'll get you one. I'll get me one.
Man, same deal. Yeah, I think my favorite Churchill story. I did a ton of research on him because I put him as a character in the Traveler Summit. And I think my favorite story took me 6 years to verify because I had heard it, but it seemed so... it just seems like, why would I not know that? Why would people not know that? But there's a ton of stuff that people don't know. I got a whole book about the Nazi submarines in the Gulf of Mexico during World War II. And people just don't know about that. And so I heard about this, and I spent 6 years, and then it was Winston Groom, which it kills me that he has passed away before I was able to get Winston in that chair that you're sitting in, because we were building the studio, and I've known Winston, or I knew him for a long time, and just, I really look up to this guy. I mean, he wrote Forrest Gump, which is what he's kind of known for, but Winston was a historian.
Oh no, and everybody talks about Forrest Gump, but the historical stuff is honestly some of his best writing.
Yeah, I mean that book that he did, or those three, the generals, the aviators, and something else I can't remember, but he mentioned in it was the one that was about Stalin, FDR, and Churchill, and he mentioned that thing that I had been after for 6 years, but he mentioned it in a way that I had never heard it, and it allowed me to search it in a different way, and I found it immediately. And it's a great story about somebody telling you no and figuring out how to get around a no. Churchill in World War I was Lord of the Admiralty, right? And so this is like akin to our Secretary of the Navy, right, I guess. And so he had a responsibility to the Navy, but he felt his duty was to the British people. They're at war, and so if you can help in any other way, don't you help in any other way? Well, this whole thing had come together in trench warfare, and they didn't know if it would ever end because nobody could overrun anybody. You're down in these trenches and the barbed wire, and how do you even get rid of that? And so Churchill's using his imagination, and he says, there's got to be something, and he comes up with this idea for a big vehicle that they can't use the wheels because they got wagons and mule wagons and little trucks at the front, and those are getting stuck in the mud. So he envisions a series of tracks, right, on these wheels, and then armor plating to protect the driver, and they could just like cruise right over the thing. And so he took this idea, and they said, no, this is not your place. You are Lord of the Admiralty. And if it has to do with ships and water, it's you. But if it doesn't have to do with ships or water, you're not part of the conversation. I mean, you just can't imagine how stupid, but you're in politics, so you could probably imagine.
Everybody, there's delineations there, and if you step over that line, people can get a little
right
forsnazzled.
And so what he did is he got his own group together, and he created what he called a land ship. The prototype was Landship Mark I, and it had this huge container on the front of it. And people say, well, what is this for? And he said, it's to deliver water to the guys at the front. This big container filled with water. And, you go to the front and it's armor plated. And so you can make sure they have enough water. And so it seemed to work like they wanted to do. But before they actually put it into use, he said, there's something really bothering me about this. They have informed me that apparently these guys don't need as much water as we thought. And so, take that big container off of that. And so they took the container off. He said, it's a shame to waste all that space. So they put a 6-pounder field gun on it.
As one does.
Yeah. And then a bunch of Hotchkiss 8mm machine guns. And so this thing just floated across the trenches, and all these guns were pointing sideways and just clear the trenches. And the Germans immediately, it was put into battle right away. And the Germans just literally, they just ran from it. I mean, they said, what are you going to do? And they just ran from it. And so eventually they made tons of them. But what's funny to me is that the guys who were obviously thrilled that Churchill had come through with this thing that saved him, but they were still a little peeved at the military leadership that tried to keep them from getting it. And so they would always, they called it a different thing. It was the original name was Her Majesty's Land Ship. That was what it's called.
Which is just it's a classy way.
It's a classy way of saying it. And so but the guys all called it a water tank, and then they just shortened it and later just called it a tank.
Yeah.
So Churchill created the tank. It's just like unbelievable to me.
No, but you look at his entire life, there's just some people are just blessed and touched by this extraordinary ability to have an amazing life. And then, of course, when you're the son of, Lord Randolph, you're obviously, maybe you're on a few steps higher than the rest of us are going to be already. But there's just so many different points in his life where it's just remarkable.
Yeah, the South Africa stuff.
Well, yeah, and you get to read about it from London to Ladysmith via Pretoria. And the fact that his mother chartered her own hospital ship to go down there and come get him, like, I'm going to completely ignore what the government is saying about my son who's this prisoner of war. I'm just going to buy a hospital ship and take it down there, and I'm going to get my son.
Yeah. You know, hey, Cliff, come back sometime. Let's do a whole show on Churchill.
Oh, I would love that.
Because people are excited. I think people are interested in this. And I think, you know, it kind of bothers me a little bit that history does not, that people don't understand why history is important, you know, and it's even all the statues and all this kind of stuff, you know, it's history is not just to honor, it's also a cautionary tale.
No, well, and that's the thing. I love Winston Churchill, but there are some problematic things in that history
Absolutely.
as well.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing, you take the good and you take the bad. You have to have both because it informs and educates.
Right. You got to know. And so it's you know, they what is the saying about, you know, we're doomed to repeat, people who don't learn history are doomed to repeat history. And unfortunately, I feel like it's like we're doomed to be people who don't learn history. So that's why because we just ignore it. Yeah, because there's so many things that have been done and tried and tried and tried. And like, okay, really? Here we go again? Seriously?
Well, no, and if you look, especially at American history, it cycles so much. There's
Right.
just, especially in the early days of the Republic, like every 30 or 40 years, you're going to have an economic panic. Like, and if you look at our history, it's just like clockwork. And it's like, like, you know, we have the vantage point of here and now. We can see all this. And it's like, how did you not see this back in the day?
Right.
But then we're going through our own trials and tribulations right now that, you know, 100 years from now, they're going to look and be like, how were they so dumb that they couldn't see this? You know, you can't see it in the here.
Yeah. So will you come back?
Oh, definitely.
All right,
I'd love
good.
to.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, buddy. I really appreciate it. And so we will have you back.
Well, thank you. And I love being here. Thank you. And great conversation. It's fun to talk with like-minded people.
Absolutely, buddy. Well, we're going to go out there and look at some of that stuff in a minute. I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing the tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, smile while you talk, even behind that mask. Don't breathe anyone else's air yet. It's not time to do that. But make sure you have a good answer to the question, hey, how's it going? And so, until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Caramel popcorn provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by the PCPolice.fed. Now officially funded by your tax dollars, the PCPolice.fed is an enforcement arm of SPIP, the recently recognized cabal of leaders who are now responsible for deciding how Americans must live their lives. The SPIP, or Silly People in Power, have taken on a monumental task, but they are eager to continue what they say has now only just begun. Furthermore, because you are too stupid to understand how your own life should be lived, SPIP has granted unlimited authority to their enforcement division, the PCPolice.fed, to make changes and enact laws. Today, behind the scenes on campus at the Harvard University headquarters of the PCPolice.fed, a quick glance at files reveals the changes in American vernacular regarding food most likely to be enacted next. Licorice in all forms will no longer be referred to as black or red. Soon, brand manufacturers will be required to package the delicious candy as African American licorice or Native American licorice. In the same light, change is on the horizon for black-eyed peas and red man chewing tobacco. Each in turn will be renamed African American eyed peas and Native American person chewing tobacco. Cracker Jacks will soon be marketed as Caucasian Jacks. This, of course, is similar to the rebranding currently underway at Nabisco, the proud manufacturing giant who in the near future will bring us their signature product that, while still in this same recognizable box, will hence and forevermore be known as Saltine Caucasians. Bakeries will no longer be allowed to sell gingerbread men. Instead, in a bow to inclusiveness, new regulations call for the traditional treats to be labeled transgender bread persons. And finally, the NSA has agreed to a joint venture with the PC Police.fed to eliminate bullying from society. The NSA will listen in on every American home during the hours of lunch and dinner. Arrest warrants will be issued for anyone promoting violence by referring to fluffed potatoes by the formerly more hurtful and aggressive term mashed. That's the PCPolice.fed, changing how you live for your own good.